What are you seeing in Lamar right now? What are you seeing in the Ravens?
I mean, Lamar is doing what he's always done. I don't see any innovation from Greg Roman and trying to evolve this offense, being able to push the ball down the field. I think Hollywood Brown has been a huge disappointment. Willie Snead had the audacity to complain about not getting some attempts at him last week. He's been able to be effective with his legs and do what Lamar Jackson does. But in the playoffs, the competition is different. You're playing against playoff caliber teams. And I understand that Cleveland's that, but that's playing little brother. You understand and know that team better than any other team because you play them so often. I'm concerned with Lamar Jackson's lack of weapons and the inability to really beat teams from within the pocket. Until he does that, until he wins a playoff game, I think that you have to make sure that you pick up his option, but you don't give him the Mahomes deal. I think you tell Lamar, hey, we're going to give you your Amari Cooper and see if you can take it to the next level because the league is going to always continue to catch up. And I think when you go out there and you know that you don't have to put two safeties deep, you can put another safety in the box and you see what, San Diego at that time Chargers did by putting an extra safety on the field to put more athletes that can play in space. That's going to be the recipe to stop Lamar. And if this team falls behind, can Lamar Jackson win a playoff game by throwing from within the pocket? That remains to be seen. And I think the answer is no. They have to win a certain type of way, and they have a small margin for error.
Well, so much has been made of the fact that he is 0-2 in the playoffs. That is well documented. But, Mike T., I sort of have a feeling that this team, they feel like a dangerous one. Maybe they're sort of more suited to be the team that sneaks in there from behind and scares people. How do you see them in this postseason?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I see it differently than Bart. I think we saw a transformational moment with Lamar Jackson when he came back on that 4th and 5 play against the Browns. He broke contain. Everyone thought he was going to run it. He pulled up, threw a touchdown pass to Hollywood Brown. There's very few players that could do it. And I'll tell you this, Kansas City, there's only 2 players on the planet that could send them home without a championship ring, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And if Baltimore gets hot, and I see it differently than Bart, because what's going on right now is the game is slowing down for Lamar. Experience is starting to matter to him, and he can carry this team all by himself and make those 3 or 4 plays in a game that could send anybody home. So they're extremely dangerous if they get in.
That's an interesting one. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. The thing that both of them can do, of course, is control the game, control the clock. Let's just spin that forward because it's a fun subject. Bart Scott, is that the recipe for someone to knock out Kansas City? We're all trying to figure out, is there anyone who could knock off Mahomes? I've been making the case that it's Buffalo based on some of the things they can do. How do you see that? Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, the biggest threats to Patrick Mahomes in the AFC?
I mean, I think it's correct because they can keep the chains moving, but I think it's a lot easier for Tennessee to do that because they're handing the ball off to Derrick Henry. I think if you ask Lamar Jackson, one bad hit, one rib shot, one leg injury, and I think that derails them. But, when you talk about beating the Kansas City Chiefs, I think that the Ravens defensively has always had the wrong game plan. They're trying to match these guys man to man because they feel like they have Peters, they feel like they have Humphreys. They went out and they invested money in Levine. They have money in Jimmy Smith, but they need to make sure that they always keep 2 safeties high, and they need to make sure that they get in these faces of these receivers and make sure that they still have the opportunity to be able to have 2 guys deep and be able to have guys that can make up for when they miss somebody or they go horizontally. That's why they've always got blown out against Kansas City because they think they can beat Kansas City at their own game, which they can't. They have to make sure and make Mahomes have to beat you by death by 1,000 paper cuts and hope that they can score enough and run the football down that porous Kansas City defense.
Remember, those 2 teams met on a Monday night at the beginning of this season, what literally feels like 5 years ago, and the Chiefs blew them out, and that sort of began this year going in the wrong direction for Baltimore. And as we looked at that graphic, it is worth pointing out, if they hadn't changed it to 7 teams this year, the Ravens would be in real trouble, even as it is. They're not in a playoff position right now. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.